Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today I want you to close your eyes and picture the Caribbean. But do me a favor, erase the cruise ships, forget the all-inclusive resorts, and ignore the beaches for a minute.
Okay.
I want you to visualize the invisible pipes running underneath all of that. We are talking about the plumbing of the global economy and why, for a lot of places, it's currently clogged.
It sounds incredibly dry when you call it plumbing, doesn't it? But you're right. This is probably the most significant shift in how island nations might survive economically that we've seen in maybe 20 years.
And the reason we're talking about this today is because of some breaking news. It's coming out of the World Economic Forum in Davos just yesterday. The headline is that Bermuda has announced plans to become the world's first fully on-chain national economy.
Right.
Now, I have to be honest, when I hear on-chain, my brain immediately jumps to, crypto bros, volatile Bitcoin charts, people losing their life savings. Is that what we're looking at here?
Not at all. And that is the biggest misconception we need to clear up right at the start. This isn't about speculation. This isn't about buying a digital coin and hoping it goes to the moon so you can buy a Lambo. This is about the government of Bermuda partnering with massive regulated entities. We're talking Coinbase and Circle.
Big players.
The biggest players to change the actual rails that money runs on.
So they are integrating digital assets, specifically these dollar-pegged stablecoins like USDC, into the infrastructure of the island.
That's the crux of it. Think of it less like investing in a stock and more like upgrading your house from copper wire landlines to fiber optic internet. They are changing the underlying technology of how value moves from person A to person B.
To help us understand why they're doing this, and specifically what a neighbor like Jamaica can learn from it, we are unpacking a really fascinating analysis by Dean Jones from Jamaica Homes. It was published just yesterday, January 21st.
Right, and he has this unique background. He's a real estate expert, but he's also deep into IT and business transformation.
Which is the perfect lens for this, isn't it?
It is, because if you only look at this as a tech story, you miss the point. Jones frames it as a business friction story. He's arguing that the current banking system is actually hurting productivity in the Caribbean, and Bermuda is trying to stop the bleeding.
Let's drill down into that word, friction. Jones calls it the quiet pain of Caribbean banking. I love that phrase, quiet pain.
Me too.
It implies something we just tolerate because we think we have to.
We do just tolerate it. We assume that sending money across borders should take 3 to 5 days. We assume it should cost $40 or $50 just to initiate a transfer. But Jones argues that for an island nation that relies on tourism, this isn't just an annoyance.
It's a real disadvantage.
It's a structural disadvantage. It's a tax on existence.
He uses a really relatable example to illustrate this. The Airbnb host. Let's walk through that because I think everyone gets this. I'm a Jamaican homeowner. I list my villa. A tourist from London books it. They pay in pounds or US dollars. Airbnb takes their cut and they send me the money. If I were in Miami, that money would hit my account pretty much instantly.
Seamless. You barely think about it.
But in Jamaica.
It's an obstacle course. Airbnb sends the funds, but now you're dealing with the international banking network. The money doesn't just fly direct. It hops through what they call intermediary banks.
And each one takes a piece.
Each one takes a cut. Then it arrives in Jamaica, often in US dollars. But, you can't pay your electric bill or your cleaner in US dollars. You need Jamaican currency.
So now I have to convert it. And this is where I usually get frustrated looking at my own bank statements.
Right, because the bank gives you a rate, but it's rarely the actual market rate. There's a spread. That's the difference between what the bank pays for the currency and what they sell it to you for. You lose value there, and you lose time. Jones points out that while the money is in transit floating in the ether for 3 to 5 days, it's doing nothing. You can't use it. It's dead capital.
The article mentions people literally walking down the street to cambios to get better rates. It painted such a vivid picture for me.
It's a very real experience. You withdraw physical U.S. cash, walk to a money changer to get a better rate than the bank offered, and then maybe you go back to deposit the Jamaican dollars.
It's so inefficient.
Incredibly inefficient. Jones calls this wasted economic energy. Instead of focusing on making the guest experience better, the host is spending their morning navigating banking friction.
And it's not just small hosts. This impacts the big real estate deals too, right?
Oh, it creates a massive timing mismatch. A real estate deal can take weeks, even months to close. If you are selling a luxury property in Montego Bay, it's probably priced in US dollars.
Sure.
But your closing costs, stamp duty, transfer tax, legal fees, Those are all in Jamaican dollars. If the Jamaican dollar fluctuates during those weeks of closing, someone is taking a haircut, that's exchange rate risk.
And right now, that risk is just a cost you have to eat.
You just eat it.
Okay, so we've established the pain. It's slow, it's expensive, and it's risky. The culprit, according to Jones, is this system of correspondent banking. Now, I hear that term a lot, but can you just break it down for us?
Sure. Think of it like flying from a small regional airport to a destination on the other side of the world. There are no direct flights.
Oh.
You have to fly to a hub, say Miami.
Okay.
Then you change planes to New York, then maybe another layover in London before you finally get where you're going.
And at every airport, you have to go through security again and buy an overpriced sandwich.
That's a perfect way to put it. In banking, those hubs are correspondent banks. A Jamaican bank and a UK bank, they usually don't have a direct relationship. They have to go through a big US bank first.
And that big U.S. bank has to check everything.
Everything. For compliance, money laundering, sanctions, that takes time and it costs money.
And recently, a lot of those big banks have just stopped doing business with the Caribbean entirely, right? This whole de-risking thing.
Yes, exactly. They just decide the fees aren't worth the compliance headache, so they cut the flight route. It's becoming harder and more expensive to move money in and out of the region.
Enter Bermuda. They're effectively saying, let's build a direct flight.
By moving to an on-chain economy, they are bypassing the hubs.
But, and I want to stress this again for the skeptics, they are not using Bitcoin. Why does on-chain not equal risky crypto gambling here?
Because Bermuda is betting on USDC. That stands for USD coin. It is a stable coin.
Okay, explain that like I'm 5. What makes it stable?
It's a digital token. It lives on a blockchain, but it is backed one-to-one by real reserves. We're talking actual cash and U.S. Treasury bonds held in regulated U.S. banks.
So 1 USDC is always worth $1 US.
Always redeemable for $1 US. It doesn't fluctuate like Bitcoin. You don't buy a coffee with it and worry that 5 minutes later the prices crash and you actually paid double.
So it has the stability of the dollar, but the delivery mechanism of an email.
Even faster. The speed of the internet. Because it runs on a blockchain, it doesn't need to route through that correspondent bank in New York. It goes wallet to wallet.
Peer-to-peer.
Peer-to-peer, it settles in seconds or minutes, 24/7. It doesn't care if it's Saturday night or Christmas morning.
So going back to our Airbnb host, if they could accept USDC, how does that change their week?
The guest pays USDC from their phone. The host receives USDC instantly on their phone. No wire fees, no 3-day wait. And because USDC is a global standard, the host can hold it or convert it to local currency through a local digital exchange, much, much cheaper than the traditional wire system.
That cuts out a lot of middlemen.
It removes the middleman tax. For an economy that relies on tourism and trade, that is huge. It keeps more value on the island.
But here's the part of the article that really stood out to me. Jones makes a big deal about how Bermuda did this. They didn't just wake up yesterday and sign a deal with Coinbase.
No, this wasn't a reckless jump, and this is the governance lesson for Jamaica. Bermuda passed the Digital Asset Business Act, or DABAWay, back in 2018.
2018. In crypto years, that's ancient history. That's a lifetime ago.
It is. But it means they built the rules before they built the road. They defined what a digital asset is. They defined how to protect consumers. They established audit requirements. Jones calls it governance before glamour.
Governance before glamour. I like that.
They didn't chase the hype. They built the regulatory framework first, which gave companies like Circle the confidence to actually set up shop there.
You can't just import the cool gadgets. You have to prepare the soil.
You really do. You have to educate stakeholders, make sure the laws are ready.
So let's pivot to Jamaica. Dean Jones is looking at this Bermuda experiment and asking, what if? If Jamaica could replicate this friction-free environment, what would it look like?
Well, since Jones is a real estate guy, he starts there. Imagine an overseas buyer in London wants a condo in Ocho Rios. Instead of a wire transfer that loses 3% and takes a week, they pay the deposit in regulated digital dollars.
So, settled.
Instantly.
Yeah.
The developer gets the funds, the velocity of money increases, they can pay their suppliers immediately. But then, think about remittances. This is the emotional core of the argument for me.
The diaspora.
Exactly. Jamaicans living abroad sending money home to support their families. It's billions of dollars a year, a huge chunk of the national GDP.
Huge.
Right now, remittance companies take a significant cut, sometimes 5, 7, or even more percent.
That's money that isn't going to the grandmother in Kingston.
That's money feeding a financial service provider, not the family. If you can move that money on-chain for a fraction of a cent, which is possible with stablecoins, that 5% stays in the family's pocket.
It buys groceries.
It
Pays for school fees.
It fixes a roof. Aggregated over the whole country, that is a massive economic stimulus that costs the government nothing to implement.
Now, speaking of the government, usually when we talk about crypto, governments get nervous. They think it's about hiding money, dark web deals, tax evasion. But Jones argues the opposite.
It sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it? But he argues this could be a boon for tax collection.
How does digital money help you collect taxes?
Because blockchains are transparent ledgers. Every transaction is recorded forever. But more importantly, this money is programmable.
Programmable money. Unpack that for us.
It means you can write code into the transaction itself. So imagine a real estate transaction. You can write a smart contract that says, when this property is sold for $1 million, automatically send 4% to the stamp office wallet and the rest to the seller.
So it's not me filing a form and sending a check later. It just happens.
It happens automatically in the split second the transaction settles. You can't forget to pay the tax. You can't fudge the numbers. Compliance is embedded.
That is incredibly efficient, but I have to play devil's advocate here. It also sounds a little bit dystopian. Total control.
It definitely changes the nature of financial privacy for sure. But Jones emphasizes that this doesn't replace banks or due process. We still need banks for custody, keeping the money safe, and for lending. Banks don't disappear.
They just change the settlement layer.
Exactly.
Okay, we have to look at the other side of the coin. We've painted a rosy picture here. Fast money, happy grandmothers, efficient taxes. But there is an elephant in the room, as the article puts it. What is the danger here?
And Dean Jones is very clear about this. Credit to him for not glossing over it. The risk is geopolitical.
Go on.
Remember, we are talking about USDC. It is pegged to the US dollar. It is not a Jamaican currency. It is not even a Bermuda currency. By building your economy on these rails, you are importing US monetary policy.
So if the U.S. Federal Reserve decides to print $1 trillion,
Then the US dollar loses value through inflation, and by extension, the Jamaican economy loses purchasing power. You are effectively outsourcing your monetary sovereignty to Washington.
that sounds like a deal breaker for a proud, independent nation. We fought for independence. Why would we give up control of our money?
That's the initial emotional reaction, but Jones counters with a very pragmatic and somewhat brutal question. He asks, don't we already have that problem?
Because the economy is already so dollarized.
Look at the reality. Tourism, priced in dollars. Oil imports, dollars. Remittances, dollars. Jamaica is already heavily exposed to U.S. inflation.
That's a fair point.
Jones argues that the question isn't, do we want exposure to the U.S. dollar? That ship has sailed. The question is, do we want the exposure plus the friction and high fees of the old banking system, or the exposure with the efficiency of the new system?
Stagnation is not risk management. That was the line in the text that stuck with me.
It's a powerful argument. He's saying that doing nothing is also a choice, and right now that choice is costing the economy money every single day.
So it's about managing the risk, not avoiding it. Diversification.
You don't put everything into USDC, but you don't ignore a better tool just because it's not perfect.
I want to zoom out a bit for our final segment. The article touches on something that goes beyond just currency. We briefly mentioned smart contracts for taxes, but Jones sees a huge future for this in land registries.
This is where the technology could truly transform developing nations. This serves as a bridge from money to trust. In Jamaica, like many places, land disputes are common. Titles get lost. Boundaries are unclear.
Records are on paper in a basement somewhere.
Exactly. And if you can't prove you own the land, you can't borrow against it. You can't build wealth. It's dead capital again.
So you put the titles on a blockchain.
You put them on a blockchain. This makes them immutable, meaning they can't be secretly altered or destroyed. And once the land is on-chain, you can do some wild things with it. He mentions tokenized property interests.
Okay, tokenization. I hear this buzzword everywhere. What does it actually mean in a real estate context?
Think of it like slicing a cake. Imagine a developer wants to build a hotel. Instead of finding one billionaire to fund it, they tokenize the project. They break the ownership into, say, 10,000 digital tokens.
Like crowdfunding.
Yes, but with legal ownership rights encoded. A local teacher or nurse could buy $500 worth of tokens and own a fraction of that development. It democratizes investment.
So locals can own a piece of the tourism industry, not just work in it.
That's the idea. And then there's smart escrow. I think this was my favorite concept because I've bought a house and the escrow process was a nightmare.
Oh, it's painful. You send money to a lawyer, they wait for a document, they call the bank.
Mm.
It's so manual and slow.
With Smart Escrow, the code acts as the escrow agent. You program it. If the digital building permit is issued by the government database, then release the funds to the developer.
It removes the human bottleneck.
It creates a trustless system. Now, that sounds bad, like I don't trust you, but in this world, trustless means I don't need to trust you, to be honest. The code enforces the deal. If the permit doesn't appear, the money doesn't move, period.
But Jones adds a disclaimer here, right?
Hmm.
We can't fire all the lawyers and surveyors yet.
No, and that's important. He says we still need the human element. You need a surveyor to go to the physical land and say, yes, this matches the map. You need lawyers to verify intent. The blockchain enforces the record, but humans verify the reality.
It's not robots taking over. It's robots doing the paperwork.
Which I think we can all get behind. Nobody loves paperwork.
Absolutely not. As we wrap up, Jones brings this all back to a cultural touchstone. He quotes a Jamaican proverb, legal but with talawa.
Small but strong.
It's a call to action. He's saying that small nations like Jamaica or Bermuda actually have an advantage here.
They do. They can be agile. Large economies like the US or the UK are bogged down by massive legacy banking systems. It's hard to turn a tanker.
But a speedboat.
You can pivot. He compares it to how some developing nations skipped landlines and went straight to mobile phones.
Leapfrogging.
Exactly. Jamaica doesn't need to fix the old banking pipes. They can just build the new wireless network. But his warning is clear. The time is now. If Jamaica waits 5 years, the standards will be set by someone else. They need to be in the room, shaping the rules.
Standing confidently in the room, shaping outcomes rather than reacting to them. That's the vision he paints.
It is a compelling one, and it reminds us that technology is just a tool. The real innovation is the mindset, the willingness to look at a process that everyone accepts as normal, like waiting 3 days for a wire transfer and saying, this isn't good enough anymore.
So here is the question for you listening right now. We've talked about the plumbing of money. It's invisible, usually.
Yeah.
But if that plumbing changed, if sending money to a supplier in China or a freelancer in London was as easy and free as sending a WhatsApp message, how would that change your life?
It makes the world a much smaller place.
Would you hire different people? Would you sell to different customers? Or would you just enjoy having that extra 5% in your pocket? Are we ready for the plumbing to finally catch up to the internet age?
It's worth thinking about.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you on the next one.